10:25. I'm late. I didn't think I was going to be able to do this at all because I've had a migraine off and on all day that just earlier finally made me turn to where it makes me sick. And I'm hoping I'm through that now. I'll give a minute and see if anyone's still awake. If anyone wants to come on and talk about this, I've got to clean up a mess. I spilled all the rice in this little cup that holds my rings. Got somebody with us. Say howdy. I don't know who you are till you say howdy. I'm cleaning up a mess here I made while I wait on everybody else to show up, if anyone's up. Hey, Denise. I should have known the first one in the gate would be you. I had a horrible migraine all day and did not know if I was going to be able to do this or not, but I'm at the point where I'm not as sick as I was, and I thought, well, let's try this. Hi, Gypsy. I thought, let's try this. Hi, Rebecca. And see how far we get, because I did take notes this morning, and I have someone else that also is helping me watch this case, and my bangs are right smack in my face, and I'm going to use one of these little metal hair pinches to see if I can get it to hold it out of my face. So the last 40 hours, hi CDC dogs, the last 24 hours has been rather interesting, hasn't it? A lot of revelations coming out that perhaps were not, oh, that looks really stupid, that perhaps were not anticipated, or I've had a migraine today, and my hair is like, if it gets in my face or in my eyes, it's going to drive me nuts. It's going to drive me bonkers. I've had it up in a big ponytail out of my face because it just felt so bad today. So I'm happy to be here and to be able to do this with you. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes because we normally end up having quite the crowd, and I don't want to have to repeat a lot of the stuff. I did take notes during the press conference that they did. I took notes, listed quotes that they gave that I found interesting, and just stuff that I thought we might want to talk about. Hey, that might work for a minute. Hey. Okay, Lord, it is still humid in Tennessee. Look at my hair. I mean, Lord, help me. It's bad. It's really bad. Think about cutting it off again. Most of y'all know I used to kind of like have a mohawk. The sides were shaved and it was just the top, and I kept it French braided or kept up out of my face. And I've just been so sick the last year when I had the mastoiditis. I just stopped being able to get out and get it taken care of, and it's just grown into this mess. I've cut it by myself twice, but it keeps growing fast. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Okay, we've got about 10 with us now. So I think Beverly just responded on my earlier post. Maybe she'll see that I'm live and jump in. Out of respect last night, I just thought it was best if, for me personally, if I just stayed quiet. And for me, it was about respecting the process that I knew that they were. Ben's King. That's a questionable name. Hello. I hope it doesn't mean what I think it means. I'm a retired parole officer and counselor, so normally I only know the bad connotations of things, so don't hold that against me. But for me, last night, out of respect, I just thought it was best to remain quiet. And for me, it was just, I knew that if it was her that they had found, which most likely it is, that for me, it was just more about being respectful, knowing that she was in transit to get back to where her family could lay her to rest appropriately. And I just did not feel like I needed to be yapping my mouth while she was being recovered and transported. It just didn't feel right. So I didn't do anything last night. And this morning when they had the press conference, I did make a lot of notes. And I have also had people that monitor this, that send me stuff that they see on the web that is, part in the middle of my hair, that they see is interesting. And one of the things they saw as interesting was the post on Jagger's Instagram. And while while I say the words could absolutely have even been somebody else trying to break in, hack, put them there. I cannot verify those are his. I guess they're apparently still active on his Instagram. If y'all want to go check, you can. I'm not going to. But I just thought the word choice in the message was unusual. But he had also posted video with basically the same message. So it was not a big stretch to think that this was him actually posting this. So that's why I shared it with you all. The words themselves said a lot to me, and I wanted to get them shared before they disappeared again. Because everything seems to be disappearing about this case. You get it for 5 minutes, and you think, okay, well, I can hang on to that, and I can look into it, a little bit deeper later. No, they disappear. So you better grab them quickly. So that's always curious to me. Claire, I try to be respectful. I fail miserably most times, but I try. Um, so I did witness Jagger in his verbal video message, and it was him, and he said a lot of the same things. Now, obviously, two teenagers that have experienced young love, you're going to have a bond there that's going to be different than like, you know, a college boyfriend or someone that you run into later in life. We all understand that. Young love, it hits like a meteorite. It's hard to deal with when it ends. And so we can all appreciate and understand the amplified emotions that go into young love and the kids that experience it. So we understand that statements or even written word, gosh, my hair, or even the written word is going to appear more strongly, more vivid, and probably carry a little bit of scariness to them because they are normally so fully committed to these brand new relationships that they don't understand when they start to sound a little crazed. They don't understand that. So we all can kind of give a little bit of wide berth to Jagger and his statements and understand young love doesn't always make us incorporate 100% of our brain when we state things or write things. Hi, music. So let's give the boy a little bit of grace because he's going through something he's probably never experienced before. With the love, with the death, with the grieving, probably all of this is very new terrain for him. So we got to give him some wide berth. Now, I did take notes during the press conference with the police. But what I want to do first is go back to my gallery and pull up that photo that I shared with you all. And we're just going to talk about this kind of line by line. Oh, CDC, hey, feel welcome to join in and spit out some knowledge or a different train of thought. Um, I welcome, I'm not, I welcome anyone else's thought. I'm not the end all be all on this. It kind of takes all of us to try to sift through this and figure it out. And for a lot of parents, a lot of people on the net are parents that are just trying to understand what happened and how can I better equip my children so that they won't find themselves in this scenario or they won't participate in these things, or I can see the warning signs before it happens. So that's what a lot of people are actually on the net for. They're not actually on the net to degrade or demean these people, this young girl, these teenagers. They're just really trying to make sense of this, and that's okay. Okay, I'm going back to my community post so I can look at this photo with you all. Okay, so the Instagram statement by Jagger, allegedly by Jagger, which I did see the video he made, and it was kind of along the same emotional lines. Um, he says, I never knew I'd have to deal with my whole world vanishing just like this. That's a normal, appropriate teenage response to losing someone that, your first love. You do feel like the whole world is gone and you've never experienced something this disheartening. You've never experienced loss, so it hurts. Hi, American Amy. How you doing? Um, so that doesn't concern me. I don't understand why this had to happen to you. Again, normal. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there to control your dumb ass. It's not so normal. It's not so normal. Now that could be a joke that they had, an inside joke that they had between each other that she was a dumbass and constantly made mistakes. But it doesn't sound like something that, even if it was a private joke, that you would want to publicly state. It sounds like something that would be better to remain private. And that's if it's in a joking sense. If it's not in a joking sense, then he is alluding to a pattern of behavior where he had to step in and be the critical thinker and the rational, logical party member. And so that would basically state that he has experienced a pattern of bad decisions that placed her in harm's way, and he feels like had he been there, he would have controlled this situation as well. That's troubling. It's very troubling. I love you more than anything, and I always will. Obviously, that's a normal statement. Young love, even though they were broken up, he still has feelings for her, and he probably always will. Those are the loves that hit you like a Peterbilt going down the interstate. So that's normal. Let's see. American Amy says, no, it's not the same and not publicly. I mean, that's it. That's it. It's abnormal to, even if it was a private joke, it's abnormal to display them publicly, especially this soon, especially when you start to think about everything else that has been said so quickly about her. This is very important, and we'll get into that in just a minute because this is another point I want to make. And Amy, you're on it. You're on it. Yeah, the things that we do behind closed doors, we don't always want to advertise. And yes, juveniles may not understand what needs to be, remain hidden and what can be showed. But in this regard, there's too much that they regurgitated and brain vomited out to society that if you follow the norms and normal behaviors and social expectations and parameters, they would never have been said publicly. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. And yeah, you have to kind of look and say, okay, I have to give a little bit of grace. He's young, probably never gone through this. He's handling something he probably doesn't know how to handle. And I hope he's going after grief counseling and being monitored, but you know, that's not for me to force upon anybody. I just hope he really is doing that. Because this statement concerns me a little bit. It goes on to say, I hope you're at peace and I hope you were happy. I mean, that's normal. Um, I know you needed more peace and comfort in your life, and I'm so sorry that I wasn't here to comfort you like I promised. Which would bring us back to not quite so normal to publicly display um, a 16-year-old that talks to her older boyfriend about needing more peace and comfort in her life. Why? What was the discomfort and issues in her world? What did they circle around? And was this what was so much that she repetitively made mistakes that he needed to control her dumb ass about? I even have a hard time saying that because I know it's in reference to this young lady and I don't like that. But I have to use the words that he used to have the same impact. So we're starting to see that something, there was a dynamic here, a codependent dynamic perhaps, built on some skills that were not the sharpest. Maybe this is all very weird. Then he goes on to say, oh, and he had promised that he would come for her. So the relationship was built upon basically him being a protector and not just a boyfriend. Um, that's what I took away from that. It says nobody will ever forget you, and I swear that anybody that speaks wrong, I got my finger in the way. Anyone that speaks wrong on your name will never speak again. That's a bit heavy. That's a bit heavy. That's almost like a threat. It's almost like perhaps he feels like he failed her, and the only way he cannot fail her as moving forward is to make sure that he maintains this next promise, the only promise that he feels he can keep at this point. But newsflash, you can't maintain a promise like that. You can't stop people from having thoughts, opinions, statements that they're allowed to have, and you certainly can't control the memory of one person as that memory is held individually by whoever knew her. You can't control the memory of that person in everyone's brain. So I think he's setting himself up for failure here, and he's got a very aggressive stance on how to remember his ex girlfriend. That being said, let's flash back and remember that immediately right after the party, when she was missing and she didn't come forward, and there was no inclination that she was abducted or anything, we didn't know what had happened. Most of the time, when someone vanishes or they disappear or they're suspected to be dead, what do people do? They immediately start to list the kind characteristics, the things that they admired about the person. Remember the best memories, the best times, the positive stuff comes up first, right? Because now you have a void, and the reason you have a void is because this person filled that void with these positive things that you will miss. A void is created normally by positive things that you will miss, not negative things that you were irritated about, but the positive things that you will miss. What did the teenagers almost immediately start talking about? The negative behaviors. She was, I think one of them even put the two words belligerent and drunk together. Um, it, it, it struck me odd that when they began speaking about someone that they deemed was their best friend or their friend, they immediately, instead of mourning her, grieving her, and throwing out the best, because they don't know what's going on, she could just be taken off and hiding for a week for all they know. There was no inclination that it was going to end this way. She could have shown back up at any moment. We had no idea. But her friends immediately went to the very negative, deep, dark behavior. Well, she drank a lot. She did a lot of drugs. She was only 16, but she liked to party with older people. You know, the things that they said, I wasn't going to drive home with her because she was drunk. And it was like, whoa, we went to really paint her in a very harsh light immediately. And not knowing she could have popped around the corner tomorrow, and said, hey, I heard what you said about me. Why'd you do that? So normally people do not start with the negatives. They start with the positives, because normally the people that speak first are the people that were closest and they hold the most positive memories. And so they share those positive memories because that's what they're going to miss. So, were the teens sharing the memories that they were going to miss? Were they going to miss partying and being in these scenarios with this young lady? Because it doesn't, the way they spoke about it, it didn't sound like they enjoyed the contact they had in those environments, that they could not rely upon her in those environments. So why was that the first thing to come out of their mouth? That was odd to me, because normally we will paint anyone in a beautiful picture if they're missing or we don't know what's happened or we think they're in trouble, because it's just human nature to not kind of talk bad about somebody that we don't know quite what has happened. We don't want to, like, just throw their character to the wolves per se. Yeah, it was like they were automatically reporting on her deficits and her bad behavior so that it would be believable, because it would need to be believable soon. And so, from a lot of the pictures and a lot of the statements that the other people were saying, she was this brilliant, smart young girl, and made excellent grades, and I think one of the friends said she made good grades so she could get away with things, and I thought, well, that's not above a teenager. Teenagers barter that way with their parents. I mean, that's normal to some extent. But they were really quick to point out the deficits and the negatives, and I just thought, okay, that's just not normal. Yeah, they were really going after her faults immediately. That This is what I would think. This is normal teenage behavior, and even adult behavior in many regards, is to cover. When you don't know what's going on and you don't know what's happening, you don't know where somebody is, you play stupid and you just cover. because you want to at least give them the opportunity to roll back in and be like, ta-da, oops, sorry, You don't want them to roll back in and catch heck because now you've told every life secret and, they're going to be in trouble for the next 20 years. So to me, that was what seemed different. And they took the opportunity not to remember their friend or to say nice things or to kind of build up a positive vibe for the rest of everyone watching the story. But they immediately went to the faults, to the deficits, and to the darker side. And that really caught me off guard because that is, that's even difficult for adults to do, but adults will do that, especially if they've known somebody for 35 years. But it's normally very difficult for younger people, especially juveniles, to do because loss at their age is such a big, scary thing that they have such reverence for it when it occurs that they're pretty much hands off, be polite, speak nice, and walk away. So to see them just so comfortably and callously jump in to kind of like a defamation type discussion really boggled my mind. It did not match normal grief behavior. Now, in a few weeks, when a really close friend is mad at someone for leaving them, and you're going through the grieving process, and now you hit anger and upset and blame, and you might have some feelings and make some statements that are not completely rational, but you're going through the grieving period. This hit from day 2, within 48 hours, and that just boggled my mind. And that was just a personal perspective that I had that really concerned me. Well, the timeline, it seemed like everyone that was interviewed was very focused on creating a timeline and like a timeline down to the specific minutes. Like I could ask most teenagers, when the last time you talked to your friend? I don't know, a couple days ago, 3 or 4 days ago. Oh, it was dark outside. I don't know what time it was. But these people knew the date, the time, the minute. People say, "Oh, it's because of cell phones now." Yeah, but lots of kids don't they delete everything off their cell phone because some teenagers are sly and they're up to no good. And they clean that puppy because if mom and dad pick it up, they don't want to be in trouble. So still for them to have the date, the day, the time, the place, down to the minute, for me was like, that's strange. Because teenagers normally swap their phones just because they don't want to be found out when mom and dad ask to look at their phones. You would think that the teenager in them would still want to protect their friend, be like, oh, no, I don't know what she was doing, I don't know where she went. You would expect that at least for a couple days until it got really serious and she's not showing back up. Okay, we've got to be honest and talk about this because the teenage mind will always go to protect your buddy first, and then as things get more serious and you realize this is not a game, then they'll start to spill the beans. So to get you know the faults and the negatives up front immediate, and that's really all we got, it was really weird. It just didn't settle good with me. I mean, and that's something most friends do not want to do. I mean, it's just like a pact. They will lie. Now, I did pick up on this a lot. I told you I pick up on tension every time I look at these girls' faces, the way that they move their faces, their jaw tension, uh, the stress levels that I see. I see a lot of arrogance. I see that chin jetted up, and I see a lot of neck bobbing, and I don't see a lot of stress in their foreheads, even for what was going on. But I see them pinching their lips a lot, as if I have more to say, but I'm not going to say it. I'm withholding something. But the arrogant nature and the way that they shared information about their friend really did trouble me. Just because that behavior is not a complete normal unless there is a tension, some kind of deceit, or some kind of negative vibe going on between them and the person they're speaking about. Um, it just felt forced, and I don't know, it just felt forced. And if they were talking about someone that they did not like, and you could see that in the jaw and the face, you could see the tension, and in the mouth especially, but there was not a lot of stress. So if I was talking bad about somebody and dissing somebody that may show up tomorrow and hold me accountable, I would probably have some stress going on here, some stress going on here. I would be talking, but I would look like this. But these people were talking look like this. There was no stress. Absolutely no stress about being held accountable. Nothing. That piqued my interest from their body language. That concerned me. And then the one interview, and I can't find it anywhere now. This ticks me off when things disappear. They had two girls' faces filling the page, and one little girl was down here. She was a little bit younger. The other was up here talking about how they loved her, and she was just no one was going to be able to take her spot in the friend group, and they missed her so much, and things were not going to be ever be the same. And the little girl down here was like going, she didn't believe what that girl was selling at all. So that was probably someone that didn't understand that their face was telling all. And I can't find that now anywhere. If somebody finds that, please like screen record it and get it to me. It makes you wonder. It definitely makes you wonder. Well, I mean, and it's not even focused on one or the other, but you should see more of a gradual shift from positive to reality when anything like this occurs. And it's just kind of up front. We always try to paint somebody in a good light if they're missing or something because they're missing, and because it's the respectful, kind-hearted thing to do, and because with friends they're normally tight knit enough to cover for each other. We saw none of that in this. And the ones that were saying kind things were the ones that said they had spent time with her. So the only kind people were the ones that had spent time with her. That's another issue in my head. Yeah, grief is something that I mean it it's got stages, but you can bounce back and through them, until you get through it, and you can get stuck in it for a long time. And for me, it's like now that they found her, they're grieving again, which is normal. But some of the teenagers are actually just now grieving the first time, which, if you look at how juveniles normally handle grief and missing people and upsets to their life, and looking at their morality and the possible death of a friend, normally teenagers will grieve immediately and then grieve again. I saw no immediate grieving. And I'd be quite honest, I saw a lot of arrogance in a lot of people basically just talking crap. But now we've got some that are showing some grieving, issues, and I hope that anyone that was close to her is getting grief counseling because this is going to be hard on them for the rest of their life. But this inconsistency is what bugs me. Even though you back and forth in the grieving process, there is a normal onset and some normal behaviors that lead into the deeper levels of grief, and it's just all jacked up in this group of people. Yes, she had moved to the charter school. We don't know why she left that school, but she had moved to the charter school and had graduated early. The other girls went to public school. They did previously go to school together, but she was the only one that changed. Why did no one from the charter school give an interview? Why are we not seeing friends from the charter school? Why did this school that she chose to go to and graduated her early, that she obviously got a head start in life on, why is there literally nothing of substance there coming up? No one. That just is so strange for me. Um, I think that it was odd for her to go to a senior bash for a school she didn't attend. Maybe it was like an all county wide thing, but in my neck of the woods, you would never do an all county wide senior bash because they're sporting um, spar partners. So why would it's not a good idea to put them together in any aspect, um, because school pride and tribalism weighs super heavy on juveniles. Um, but I didn't feel that they were that close. If they were close, it was in the past, and there had been some kind of rift that created tension because tension was all over their faces when they spoke about her. But no one else stepped forward to speak. No one else from this new school she moved to, no new friends. It just blew my mind. And I don't know, for me, the statements that were made by the friends did not sound like friendly statements. They did not sound, concurrent with grieving teenagers and how they would respond to a missing friend that could potentially not be with us anymore. It sounded very forced, very, and they were just arrogant. Like it was not like they were upset, but oh, by the way, I want you to know that she was a belligerent drunk and did lots of drugs, but we're gonna miss her. That's not heartfelt. It's not how people talk about missing friends. So it just boggles my mind. Now, y'all, I've had a migraine all day, so I'm like not 100% tonight, but we'll get through this. Oh, yeah, CDC, exactly. I believe that a lot of what they were doing was laying out um, behaviors so that when people started investigating, the behaviors that they started to see would ricochet back to Kylie and not ricochet back to the rest of the teens, because obviously the spotlight would have been on her. So they're hoping that all of this behavior is going to be pushed back on her as if she were the only juvenile there doing these things, and that hopefully she'll pack most of the weight, and parents will just be so happy that they still have their children, they'll let it slide. And but it's another thing to think of is they could have been laying that trail down so that it would be the easiest trail for law enforcement and investigators to follow. Like, you know, if you've got a really good, I don't know, I'm country. If you've got a really good coonhound and you take him on a night hunt for a championship, and he does really good. And he's developed this big name in the area as being the best hound in the area, and maybe then you have something happen like a vehicle breaks down, or something at home needs to be fixed, repaired, or remodeled, or you've got a huge medical bill that needs to be paid, and your wife says, "You better sell that expensive dog. We need the money." Well, then you don't want to really get rid of your dog because that's your favorite and your best coonhound, but you don't want your wife to know you didn't try, so you tell people he's for sale. But on full moons, he'll tree a possum, and sometimes he'll run a bit of trash, and you do that because you don't really want the dog to sell. So you're creating a narrative that suits your purpose, but you're still complying with what your wife wanted. So you're playing both sides of the fence. And I think the kids were playing both sides of the fence. They were giving statements and grieving their friend per se, but they were also leaving little droplets of information to prepare people to swallow. This was a big drug party. There was a lot of drinking. This was inappropriate behavior. And she was in on all of it. It's like they were leaving crumbs to help these people swallow worse news every morning. And for me, talking about someone that has passed away or someone that is missing or someone that you don't know what's going on, to go negative immediately is very out of the realm of norm for most people that care about each other. So I just, as a human being, picked up on that. It's not like a huge psychobabble thing. It's just as a human being, that's not a norm. Yeah, behavior has been very off center. It's been very um, as far off target for the age group as possible. And perhaps it's because the age group is not acting their age. Maybe it's because they're acting as though they're adults, and so between the emotional age and the real physical age, that is what's creating that off the mark that we're all seeing. But still, how do we raise teenagers that are almost adults that are this bold, um, um, this emotionally, I would say emotionally inept, that when someone could be in harm's way and potentially need aid and possibly just missing or taking a break from everybody, but could potentially show back up tomorrow, why do we start immediately throwing out the negatives and the faults and the bad attributes? Why are we not, human behavior is normally to remember the positives first and to not kind of degrade anyone that is in a position, you know, an ambiguous position. We don't know what's going on. All of it sounds so weird to me. Yeah, and the whole love triangle thing. I'm just kids. Be kids. Stop acting like adults. Be kids. Be a kid. Being a kid is a great privilege. Be a kid. I've never seen tears until I saw Megs do the ugly cry about at the week and a half mark. And that was a good catch too. This is something that we need to address too, is that we heard many people say, oh, she was drunk, I was going to drive home with her after that. Oh, she was drunk, I was going to drive home with her after that. Why did no one call someone? Why? They all had phones, apparently. There were text messages back and forth to prove that. Why did someone not reach out and say, hey, your daughter's inebriated. I'm going to drop her off tonight. Y'all will have to come pick her vehicle up tomorrow. Any parent would be like, bless you, child. Let me give you gas money and some to boot. Thank you. But not nobody out of the law enforcement said they had interviewed several hundred kids, like 400 or more. Out of 400, no one offered this young lady a ride home, but everyone knew she was drunk. Are you kidding me? Are we all that callous? I don't buy that for a second. There would have been someone in that group that would have taken her home, that would have sat with her until her parents came to pick her up. Someone would have done that. What I find even more boggling is that if you look at the pictures of the party, that one picture where they're all standing there, and I say it looks like they're waiting for an authority figure to address them and tell them they may go, that takes on a whole new meaning now, doesn't it? Because they don't look too happy. They're not partying. They don't look happy to be there at all. So I still have super huge questions about this, and most of them probably will never be answered. But I have to ask these questions and talk about it because it's the only way to work through it and for people to have a dialogue and communicate. And maybe from what we all discussed, parents will create a plan of action in case their children find themselves in any situations like this. Also, from the aerial view, while when you hit the lake, it does go down rather rapidly, which is how they build those reservoirs. The statements from law enforcement and the kids state that they were parking on the beach. So they were parking all in that area. And they were just haphazardly parking, but they were parking all within, until they would hit the sand. And that's where your car does not need to go because you won't get it back out. So they were all parking in that area. So had she been inebriated, the jackknife turn to go down that road back toward the lake would be hard for me to accomplish on a good day. Let alone intoxicated. But it was also a straight shot off the point of that reservoir into the lake. She would have to have gunned it to have gotten the car out to where it could have floated as far as it did float. I mean, you have to hit water going pretty doggone fast because water basically stops. It stops you, and it's the momentum that carries and manipulates the automobile. So she would have to be going pretty doggone fast and pretty doggone straight. When's the last time you saw a drunk person drive a perfectly straight line? And on top of that, miss all the parked cars on the beach. Because nobody had any car damage. No car damage has been reported by anybody. Although if you look in that picture where they're standing around, all the way to the right, there's a little blue car over there that does look like an airbag has been deployed. Weird. It could just be somebody's jacket thrown in the window. Who knows? But I'm saying it's weird enough that you think somebody would be looking into that. I just found all of that. Okay, let me catch up here because I'm talking a lot and I need to shut up. Yes, it's the way the kids jumped in and wanted to take command of everything. And you drop your children off? No, you may not go back to your parents. You may drop them off and drive away. I'm sorry. Squeezed him out when he was 7 pounds through a very painful access area. I think if I want to follow him up here until the day he turns 18, I'm going to do it. So that was another bold side of behavior that did not line up with normal adolescent behavior. I don't know any adolescent in my neck of the woods that would dare tell a parent, no, you may not. You drop them off and you drive away. I'm the liaison with the sheriff's department. You talk to me. I don't have any kid that would have the gonads to stand in front of a parent of any child in this area and tell them no. Maybe some hell to catch. So that was also something that was just like not normal for me. That was like, woo, she took that role really quickly and ran with it. And I'm not opposed to seeing a young person take a role and run with it. That's great. But when you take a role like that and you're super comfortable dictating parents away, you must leave. Drop your child and leave. No, you may not be here. That's a role not many juveniles will be that comfortable in that quickly. That blew my mind as well. And the way she said it, you can tell she doesn't get told no very often. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I believe there's a lot about this young woman we don't know. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I just believe there's a lot about this young woman we don't know. Yeah, and then people were like, why are you talking bad about the kids? They've been so forthcoming. No. And even I shared the newspaper article where the cops had reached out and said, hey, the kids are no longer talking to us. If you have information, please come forward. We can't get these kids talking to us anymore. The kids stopped talking at a certain point. They just stopped. None of them would talk. Law enforcement actually, they gave a statement and they ran an article in a newspaper about how the kids had just stopped cooperating and that anyone that had information needed to come forward. That blew my mind. All these little inconsistencies, if one or two had happened, you could say, okay, it's a rare random occurrence and things go off the wall sometimes. But none of this, I mean, none of this has gone right. It's all been these random inconsistencies. And that, when something's purely random, it's not purely random. Well, I mean, legally by law, unless they have probable cause and a lead, they can't, restrict their life in any way. But I bet that they will be monitored. Thank you. I appreciate that because I can't find it anymore. And you could tell the little girl was a couple or 3 years younger than the one that she was kind of crammed into the screen with. It was just, if you see it, you'll know it because you'll feel as uncomfortable as I did, I'm sure. And my email is watersworkload@gmail.com. So watersworkload, all one word, watersworkload@gmail.com. Yeah, I've said this last couple weeks more than I want to. No, the pain never goes away. And it morphs and it comes back, it ebbs and flows, and you find yourself repeating the grief stages a lot. And I just lost a dear friend of like 35 years last Christmas Eve. And I am still processing that. So grief is like its own little monster, sadly. But we normally enter into it in the same kind of emotional ease. We remember the good things. It helps console us while we're handling the really bad things we have to handle when someone passes away or someone's disappeared. So that kind of gives us a little boost to get over the hump until grief really does settle in and reality really does settle in. And I saw none of that with these kids. I want to know why she switched schools and why she started going to the charter school. Yes, let me get down here to the bottom because I'm just getting swamped. I'm going to have to go back and read all of these again. Yeah, yeah, that's inconsistency. And but that picture now to me, I said it looked like they were standing there waiting for to be addressed by authorities and told that they could go. For me is was this purely accidental? I still don't feel like it is purely an accident. I I don't feel like 400 kids at a party, or even 25 kids at a party, could overlook someone that had wrecked into the lake. Um, the sounds, the lights, the noises, the track marks that would have been left. And yes, it rained that night, but I'm not sure it rained heavy enough to have removed any indications there. So if she was going that fast to get into that reservoir, her tires should have at least left enough for investigators to go on. Because if you watch when they're pacing back and forth on that beach area when they're trying to recover the vehicle, even the people walking are leaving trails. So what happened to the trails of the car, and would the rain amount that followed that night truly have eroded those tracks? Because normally, a light rain will just kind of set a track in, might mute it a little bit, but you can still tell it's there and what it was, and then it's somewhat fresh. We do a lot of tracking around here. Obviously, my husband's a trapper and tanner. Okay, did everybody get my email? See, this is another thing that boggled my mind. Okay, in my area, with the lay of the land, it would be investigated where it occurred. It's always arrested and prosecuted or handled in the area where whatever it is occurred. But we had two agencies with Nevada County taking lead, but we have feds on place two. That's all I'm going to say about that. Yep, and especially for the number of kids who have been at these parties. Excuse me, they're posting to social media every 5 seconds. Something happened that affected every kid that was there. Um, and I dare say at some point someone will probably come forward and let us know actually more what did occur. But well, and I hope that when they investigate, that maybe they'll find stuff. But the wording that the sheriff gave about the FBI's aid got me, and we'll get to that in just a second. I know it just boggles my mind. I mean, it's not a silent. I mean, if anybody has ever heard a car hit water, it's not a very silent thing. And there are a lot of noises that go on for a long time. So it seems so not possible. Yes, there were multiple parties. Yes, and I'm like, this place was surrounded with people, cars, activity. Should someone not have seen something, heard something? Yes, yes, and the fact that they just all offloaded her as though she was a problem in their statements to police. They just offloaded her. No one was going to stop her. They just weren't going to ride with her. Is that the society we've come into? We don't care. I'll let you get on the road and kill yourself or maybe many other people, but as long as you don't kill me. Really? Yep, there's my email. Thank you, Denise. If there was wind with the rain, maybe. And it's a lot of it is about what consistency is that sand. Um, does it have any stone in it that would impede tracks in the first place? It's just a lot of questions when you can't get out and physically walk the area yourself. But when I watched them recover the vehicle, it made deep ruts. And of course, they're pulling it, but it looked like the soil, even with people walking stuff, was very easily disturbed. So I would think that there would be, unless there was like a tsunami flood, like a flash flood level rainstorm, that there would have been some kind of sign left for at least 36, 48 hours. Well, and there's been so many people on the beach and going there since she came up missing that we don't know who they would have belonged to. Yeah, and nobody answered. Nobody asked the question today in the in the press conference of did they recover the phone in the vehicle? Hello, the phone holds a lot of the key issues here. It tells us a lot. Did you recover the phone in the vehicle? Big question. I want to know. I hope it does too, but we all have to also understand, and this I'm not going to go into depth, that after 2 weeks in water, after 2 weeks of decomposition, there's going to be a lot that should be noted in an autopsy that cannot be noted in this autopsy. So we're going to have to be patient and hope the doctors, really are paying attention. And that's supposed to happen tomorrow. And I can give some grace to the searchers because it was on its top and the bottom, the undercarriage of that vehicle model is rather dark. So I'm like not even going to try to lay fault there. And I know their water table has changed a lot over the last 2 weeks because they had been in a drought for a long time, and then got some rain. But even in the press conference, they had been in a drought for a long time, and it said it rained the night of, and then has rained again since. But the deputy in the press conference said that the water table was 3 to 4 feet higher at the onset of this event than it is now. And so that when they were looking, the car potentially could have been under 20 foot of water. But then he said that they had been in a drought and received rain, that finally rained the night of the party and has rained since again. Well, would that not be the opposite way around? Unless they have a dam or mechanism to where they can bleed off extra water. I don't know. I don't live there. These are questions I have. So that seemed backwards to me. So I caught that. Hang on, I'm trying to get through this. I think because it's a national story, I think they will probably release some of it. And I think they're going to release some of it just because many people feel that foul play was there. Um, but you're right, it's a minor. I mean, legally, should we be able to know? And I think the parents understand that the nation has kind of adopted their child when all of this happened, and we all kind of were praying for her safe return and that a miracle would happen, and it did not. And then we're all kind of mourning and grieving along with them. And I think that they will want to probably release some of the information just to help everyone process. I hope that's the case. But then again, if they say no, I would have to respect them because that is a minor and that's their child. So I'm just still mind blown that the FBI is in all of this. The FBI, like Homeland Security. Yeah, well, I don't know if he has. Like, I haven't seen it, and I've not been on the internet much because I've had a horrible migraine today. And right when he told me to call him on his other video, you can look under the video comments. He's like, "Hey, Skin, I need you to call me." And we were trying to catch each other. Lord my hair, we were trying to catch each other. Is when all of that hacking took place. That's why he went MIA. His mom's computer and their friend's computer, their friend's YouTube, a bunch of stuff was hacked, and it really put them in a pickle. They didn't know what was going on, and that's why we did not get to communicate. And now he's had to handle all of this and worry about a whole bunch more stuff. So if we get a chance to catch up again, then I may get some answers, but I don't know. But the fact that this girl came out of nowhere, had been on YouTube with the channel for years, had done no YouTubing, and then all of a sudden felt it very necessary to jump on every panel about this girl and to put her canoe or kayak in her vehicle and go kayaking in the body of water that Kylie was found in blows my mind. Now, it could all be coincidental. Absolutely. I'm in no way alluding to anyone having done anything criminal. I just find all of that haphazardness not so haphazard. And it's interesting to me. And so I'm going to keep a close eye on it. But as you all know, the body language that she exhibited when Ryan was questioning everyone and talking about his perspective, I did a video one. It's a couple videos back. And it didn't jive with me then. And it doesn't jive with me now. There was something off. Especially because um, she kept looking at someone over there and basically asking for what do I do now? How do I do? Really, do you want me to do that? Really? Oh my God, and you could tell there was in between them, there was very knowing glances. And that kind of made me go, what is going on here? Why in 10 years have you not put a video out? But since this girl, I know you live in the area, and everybody in an area where somebody disappears tries to kind of cash in on it. But how many people would physically go get on the water, or physically ask to go on all these panels, or verbally accost a celebrity who's putting up like $250,000 to help find this person? Blows my mind. All of that is just my opinion, not saying anything was done criminal. I'm just saying it blows my mind at the behavior. Yeah, if they find foul play, they'll have to, because it will open up a criminal investigation, and at that point, it's going to be hard to keep anything back. It's just going to be really hard. Even though she's a minor, it's just going to be terribly difficult to withhold everything, and they'll probably just make the determination just to release the information. I think the parents understand that the nation is kind of mourning with them. I would hope they would do it. I bet law enforcement have strange ways about them. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna look later. I like Ryan too. He's a good guy. That's a good man. That's a solid man. I believe that he's the one that I saw pacing. I thought that's got to be a family member they're pacing. So, Papa, I give you a grade A today. You did the right thing for your granddaughter. It's very difficult for families to even be in the area when recovery occurs, and they always want to push the family back because that's not anything you really want to have stuck in your memory. But for him to just be present until he knew she was safely recovered, it's a good man. That's a good man. I mean, just to know, you know now where your baby is. I'm going to cry. That's a good grandpa. I don't know. I just know that it struck me very odd. Watch me. I'm going to have to go get a napkin now. I'm going to cry. Um, the body language bothered me. Okay, here's my email again. If y'all watched yesterday's live with my husband, he likes to come on and we do a couples check in every Sunday. He is a trapper tanner and he sells his stuff on Etsy. There's his Etsy store. If you're international, we don't ship internationally off Etsy because we have to, some places you can't ship certain items that we sell. They have regulations. Um, so you need to email me if you're international, if you want something, to see if it can be shipped, if it's okay to ship, and then we can work something out. David's always willing to work with anybody. You can also follow his trapping adventures on Hillbilly Furs on Facebook. I know I'm sitting here with water in my eyes now, and I'm trying to bat my eyelashes to get it to go away so I can read my notes. Hi, Fang. So now I'm going to go to my notes from the press conference. These are just things that I put down. Okay, so Shannon Moon is the sheriff of Nevada County that's overseeing this, and the FBI agent is the assistant special agent in charge, Jonathan Snow. They verified recovery of the vehicle in Prosser Lake. They have not been able to positively identify, but they believe that this is their missing person. They stated it was still a very active investigation, and this is an investigation being kind of co-ran by um, is it Prosser County and Nevada County? Is that what it is? Both they said that both are working in conjunction. Here was my questions of some of the stuff that I would have asked had I been there. What gear was the vehicle in? Were there any tracks seen after the party? Why or why not? The undercarriage of this model is darker, which may be why aerial searches gave no indication, but why did sonar fail so miserably? Police stated that they interviewed over 490 juveniles and no one saw anything, which I find absurd. The area had been in a drought and it was rain that night, but did it rain heavy enough to impact the tracks, which could have alluded to this disaster? Cops said the accident site was relatively close to the party site. If you pull up aerial maps, it is spitting distance to the party site. I noted a huge pause when the deputies were questioned if there was only one body in the car. I thought that was strange. I don't know what that was about. I don't know what he had to think about. I don't know why he had to think about how to answer that question. I thought that was strange. They said, "Sir, can you confirm that there was just one body recovered in the vehicle?" And it's like this long, like, go watch it, long, dramatic pause. Seriously, I that just, and if he had just done that out of stupidity and was thinking of something else, he should have said, "I'm sorry, I was, my mind was elsewhere. No, there was just one body recovered." He should have, like, but he just left it hanging there. He just, um, the officer did say, when asked about how many, if they had searched that lake, if they had searched Prosser Lake or Reservoir, whatever it is, the officer said, "I'd say we have divers in lots of bodies of water, not necessarily Prosser." She was at a party on Prosser. And when asked if you had searched Prosser or you'd had dive teams and search teams in Prosser, he said, "I'd say we have divers in lots of bodies of water, not necessarily Prosser." That's like losing your dog in your backyard, but going all the way across town to the dog park to look for it. What? I think my husband saw my dog just came up here looking at the door like, "Dad's home." The FBI offered assistance on the investigation to, this is what the deputy said, "make sure we don't miss something we're not aware of." Because I was wondering why the FBI was there too. And the sheriff's deputy said, when they said, "Why is the FBI here?" And he said, "The FBI is here to make sure we don't miss something we're not aware of." Okay, just gonna have to take that one at face value. And I wonder, does her vehicle have an event data recovery, an EDR sensor upon it, and so upon impact it should have recorded some information? Does that model have it? I need to look into that. I had the migraine, didn't get to look into that. Wondered about that. And then the officer stated about the water level had dropped 3 to 4 feet, even though they were in a drought and then the rain came. He said it had lots of water, and now it doesn't make sense. No one asked if the phone was recovered, and the rain statement seems backwards, and the autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow, but toxicology takes like 30 to 50 days, so it's going to be a while before we know anything. And that was what I picked up when I watched the press conference. That is what I wrote down. Some people call me Big Red because my hair is normally red. But I gave all my red hair to my son when I birthed him, so now it's more auburn. But I will dye it darker in the fall and winter, so y'all just be prepared. My hair changes a lot. No, it was all juveniles. Apparently it was all juveniles or people of a very young adult age, because they treated them all as children. They labeled them in their press conference as children. So parents, watch your children. I mean, I know kids lie and get away with stuff, but 500 getting away with, but I mean, just. Well, and I wondered if there were tracks, but there's been so many people there to investigate and to look and to make videos that you can't know what they're there for. And after 2 weeks, her tracks should have faded, but it just makes you wonder, the first 2 days, were there tracks? There's my email again in case y'all need to contact me. Yeah. Sounds that way. Well, they asked that, and he said, "No, we probably just told them what we had searched and what they might want to focus on instead of searching again." So, I mean, he had a plausible response to that. It may have been what happened. I don't know. But AWP did jump right in there, and they found her, in 35 minutes. I know I missed that show. That was a very informative show. Yes. I feel better. My eyes are still really swollen, as you can see, but it's just, there's a change of weather and a new, something's blooming that's driving me nuts. And I never had allergies till I got old, and now I've got when I got this neuromuscular disorder, literally every problem under the sun got me. And it's just like, wow, one thing goes bad, and it's like when your alternator goes on your vehicle and everything else follows. It's like crap. So my health it goes up and down. And I mean, I've been doing a lot better. I've not been hospitalized in over 2.5 years, and I'm doing a lot better. But it's a precarious balance that I strike to function and complete tasks at home. And so it's much different than when I was working 80 hours a week and going through 5 counties and dealing with very heavy issues. Now I'm home and I just try to balance my health as best as I can. I've had them since third grade. I've had them since third grade, and probably always was tied into this disorder. That's how it was probably presenting, but in rural Appalachia, specialists did not catch it. Yeah, yes, it's too late to know what these tracks are from. It's probably from someone else to be in there. So we just that one will be always kind of a question mark. Were there tracks the first couple of days that somebody could have seen? Me and autocorrect fights because my hands are bad anyway, and sometimes I don't type the right letter, but then it picks a word that I don't even think is a word and throws. It's me and autocorrect fight notoriously, so I understand completely. I'm hoping here soon, like I'm doing, my body has healed a lot on its own this year that we did not know was wrong with it. And so I made it through a couple of things the last 2 years that probably would have killed me had it happened 3 or 4 years ago when I was really, really sick. So I'm thankful that it timed in a way that my body could handle it and heal it. Um, the last 2 years, I went through mastoiditis almost to the point of meningitis. It got so close, and have had a lot of issues with that. And while I was dealing with that, my body was also retaining fluid in this fluid sac that was not like round like a fluid sac. It was laid out like a strip steak over my left rib cage and my muscle, my lats, and so on CTs and stuff, they would always think it was just an area of swelling from my disorder, and they didn't think it was fluid because it didn't present as fluid. But then it ruptured, and it made me really sick. And thank goodness it was fluid. Had it been anything else, it would have killed me immediately. And I had to go through a lot of sonograms, ultrasounds, sonograms. That's what I call them. I'm old. And mammograms, CTs, MRIs to make sure that nothing else was there, and it wasn't cancerous, and everything came back good. So my body is healing things that we didn't know was wrong. That it has probably when I was super sick and my body couldn't fight off anything, it just kind of accumulated a lot of little issues. And now my body is trying to handle the little issues, but it's very stressful on me. But overall, my health is kind of plateauing and I'm doing a little bit better. But it's such a balance that I have to strike to maintain it. And so I want to go places and do things because my husband he likes to go to the Smokies and he likes to go to like bluegrass festivals and events in the area. And it's very hard for me to drive an hour out of this place, an hour back, and spend a couple of hours somewhere else because my legs swell. I I have so many steps a day, and I never know how many steps I have. And then my body's like, "And you're done." And I'm like, "Crap! I needed a 5 minute warning. I don't get a 5 minute warning." So it's very much like MS, but they can't control it. There's no way to control it, and it has less warning with it. So the last time I had an attack, I had to call 911, and it froze my arms and legs at the same time, but also froze my vocal cords. And so when I was talking to the 911 operator, she could barely understand me. And that was the first time it had affected my vocal cords. So it's just one of these things. It's one of these rare disorders that don't get near enough research, and it's super strange. And I just try to deal with it and go on. And some days I will feel like myself and be like, yeah, I feel like me. And I love those days. Like I don't want to go to bed because I know when I wake up, I probably won't be feeling that good again. And so I milk those days for all they're worth. But then I have days and weeks where it's just like, I can't, I have to take strategic naps and I have to keep my feet up and I can't really accomplish anything. And today was really an accomplished nothing day. It was not a good day. Okay, email me tomorrow. I'll check on it. See, Million Mall, that's what I want to know because they were out there to look almost immediately. Why would you not have seen tracks? Even with some rain, unless it come a Paramount Noah gully washer, there should have been some kind of remnant. And I'm sorry, those tracks would not have blended in with normal travel tracks because they would have gone straight to the water. And the way that there is sand, it would have left a straight trail. There's enough sand to have left a straight trail. So you would think that a straight shot into the water would look different than everybody curving and coming back and parking. But for some reason it was not noted, and I don't know how. Thanks for popping in, Amy. I appreciate it. The body is amazing. Mine is a little bit less amazing. Mine is somewhat remedial. So this is about where I got to. I don't know. That's a question too. It would seem unlikely, like you would think people would have their eyes out for stuff like that. But hey, stranger things have happened. Um. Oh, go back and watch my body language video on her a couple of videos back. I knew something was up with that immediately. There's my email again if you want to send me information or discuss something, or you have something you think I need to see. You can get it to me. A lot of people are sending me stuff they want me to show Ryan. If I get the chance to catch up with him, I will. But the boy has got 50 tabs open in his brain, so we'll see if he runs back around to me. And honestly, if, like I said, it's normally more useful for whatever story he's covering to get with the big channels. And lots of times we only do a tip for tat when we're trying to check in and see if we're kind of feeling the same vibe. So it's not like I have untethered and an endless amount of time that I can talk and show him things. It's more of a check in. To be quite honest, Patty keeps me up to date more than anyone. Well, it sucks. I feel bad for you because your health when you lose it. I was a big burly Amazon that was independent, and now I'm like, I need help walking to the bathroom. My legs are not working, and so it's just changed my entire world. Yeah, my husband is very much a wilderness man. Like we hunted together, we would cut timber together, we would ginseng together, and now he's alone a lot, and we had to kind of reinvest in each other in other ways. So now we do this together, this fur business and stuff, and like it's his, but I feel like I help when I edit his products, and I say that's not as pretty. Go back to the other tanning method, use this other recipe, and I'm just kind of like, when he brings stuff in and says, how do you think that these turn out? How do you like them? I can give him an editing eye before he sells it to people. And so I kind of help. And when I'm crafting and keeping my fine motor skills going, sometimes I'll go, this is cute. You need to learn how to do this and mass produce these and sell some. And sometimes he will. And that's kind of how we bond now. We brainstorm about the leather works in the fur shop, and it's what we do. Well, the disorder I have, they put a terminal diagnosis on it, but it's like one of those the longest terminal diagnosis as possible. So it's one of those that is just a slow progressing, but it's already spread to my digestive tract and my pancreas. Thank goodness it didn't go to my heart. I have friends where it went straight for their heart. So, but I am doing better than normal because my body is actually healing things. My body for several years was like, peace out. I'm barely holding on. I can't fix that. And now my body is actively trying to heal things. So I feel that I'm going in a better direction, and I've turned to a lot of tummy natural stuff. Like my doctor's like, you're doing great. What are you doing? Everything you tell me not to. So that's pretty much the conversation I have with my doctor. And he's like, well, keep doing it. It's working. But I think I'm in a better place because I'm turning to a lot of the plant-based stuff and like goldenrod tincture and honey and garlic and tea tree oil and oil of oregano and antibiotics absolutely almost kill me every time I take them. So I use a lot of plant based medicine for to take place of antibiotic issues. That was the hardest for me was when I was 6 years waiting for a diagnosis, and it ruined. Don't focus on it too much because all that is a label for billing. You're still going to have to handle everything you're going through that day. The label helped me in no way. It helped people bill and understand, from a medical perspective what was going. But honestly, I'm still dealing with the same thing. The label helped nothing other than help them bill. Yeah, you have to grow together. And sometimes, you know, it was rough after about 3 or 4 years. It was rough because I went from always with him to I can't do anything. And it was immediately after a bunch of surgeries after an injury. And it was just a shock to our little world. So, you know, and we still, everybody thinks we're the perfect couple. We have skirmishes and bicker and fuss and fight and get frustrated with this. I mean, we have a normal life. We're normal people. So people like to look in this little box and think that the people on the other side are perfect. Absolutely not. Not at all. Yeah, I keep my crystals and rocks. I've got my amethyst right here with me right now. I keep them. I have a friend that's really has citrine with me today. Um, I have a friend that's really good with all of this, and I have to say that since we've gotten a lot of stuff in here, and I've not changed anything but just the stuff that she wanted me to have, my health has perked up quite a bit. So I'm going to keep going with it. I mean, it's just something that if I'd seen it in nature anyway, I would have picked it up and brought it home. I'm really digging Amazonite right now. It's really pretty. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the Bible, God said that His sacred places were supposed to be laid at the base with 12 foundational gemstones, and yes, these gemstones were placed in all the sacred places. I and I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat because everybody wants to assign a witchy vibe with this, and for me, it's very much a biblical basis, so I don't have a problem with it. I take a lot of supplements, and one of the best that I take every day is I take apple cider vinegar gummies and turmeric tincture. Those are very helpful. I have Irish sea moss tincture. That's pretty good nutritionally as well. Now, this is just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not telling you to go buy these things. This is just what I take. Um, but the Irish sea moss is noted on the back to have like 92 of the 103 vitamins and minerals you need daily. So that's why I tried it. And my body seems to like it. Not speaking for everybody, but yeah, I have a lot of my great grandma was Cherokee, so I have a lot of that kind of knowledge. Oh, I trained horses. My dad's a blacksmith, so I trained horses the majority of my life. Yep, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And boy, I tell you what, I miss riding. When I after that fourth knee surgery, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'd gained too much weight. We knew something was not right. The surgeries were just repetitive, and I knew I couldn't keep doing it. And that was hard. I miss my horses so much because I've ridden since I was 3 and trained my entire life. The last time I trained, I think the last one I really seriously trained was I was 30, and that's when everything started going downhill. But I used to train stock horses, quarter horses, and my dad shot gaited, but he could shoe anything, but he made his money in gaited, and I trained stock. And I've also worked in Pasofino stables. Every time I would get a job, I'd be in a Pasofino stables because that's my lot in life. Apparently, I have no idea why, but they would always. I worked for a little man from Puerto Rico that trained, and he's like, you ride these really well. How did you learn to ride? I was like, that is just a souped up saddle horse. He was a nice guy. He passed away, but his wife sent me his rope that he used in the round pen. I still have it. Oh, I'll look into that. I'm allergic to a lot, so I have to be super careful. So careful. I will have a paradoxical reaction, or I'm allergic to it. And the doctor's like, your body is weird, and I was like, I know. Yeah, my immune system is where I get the most benefit, so I focus on my immune system. Perfect is boring. Absolutely, perfect doesn't exist, so everything else is great. So, Fang, I'll look into that. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm open to researching and trying everything because this is such a weird disorder, a rare disorder. I've shared it in a video somewhere down below. Um, like I've had a really rough life growing up. I was planting tobacco when I was before I was in grade school, and I just grew up doing farm labor. But what really brought this out, even though it was probably waiting to jump out first option it could, was I was working in a wilderness boot camp for juvenile offenders, and I got called to a group in crisis, and it was all male, and we had just gotten an 18-year-old from Texas, a 17-year-old who's supposed to turn 18 from Texas. It was either go to prison for aggravated assault times whatever, or come here and spend 3 years. So he had chose to come and spend 3 years. And they were cutting timber that day, and the axe was assigned to one of the boys that had been there that longest, and they had a very tiny female chief with them that day. They called the counselors chiefs. And she had apparently didn't have good control of her group and should never have chosen to go into the woods to cut timber. She should have waited till she had another chief with her, but she went in, and behavior started and squabbles started, and the next thing you know, this big boy has swiped the axe from the little boy. And this big boy was a football player from Texas. He's a big old boy. He had swiped the axe from the little boy and had everybody terrified, and they had radioed up for me to get over there stat. I went into problem issues. That's what I did. I went to solve the problems. And by the time I got over there, he had the axe, and the little teeny woman counselor was just beside it. She didn't know what to do. She was lost. And so I got the other 13 kids isolated away from him. And I went in to de escalate, and he was already at the point of breaking, and he just threw the axe at me, and it struck where my foot and my leg go together down there. And that's where, unfortunately, a lot of nerve bundles are, and a lot of important things. And it took me an hour and a half to get out of the woods. He ran, they had to go after him. When the axe struck me, I looked at him and went, "Oh, son," because I was pissed. I was mad. And he just like dropped the axe, went white, and ran. And took him forever to find him. Took me an hour and a half to get out of the woods. I was at a 3 hour point before I ever got x-rays. Luckily, the way that the axe struck and rolled, I caught the heavy, blunt backside of the axe head. I'm so lucky because it would have just taken my foot off had I not. But it crushed and broke and damaged everything. So a break probably would have been, or a gash probably could have been fixed easier than all these breaks and tendons and all this crap. It ruined my nerve bundle, so I started having foot drop and a bunch of other issues. Work comp was so slow to try to correct anything that by the time they had dealt with the issues, the 11 issues in my ankle, I had ground out my knee from just trying to get around. And my left hip was coming in and out of socket. And so they had to do some corrective surgery. And after surgery, I started having horrible issues with nerve impulses and just the functionality of my left leg. And we went through months of physical therapy. I got it back on track. And I ended up leaving the woods because hiking 9 miles a day was no longer something I wanted to do with the pain that I was dealing with my foot. And I just went into the adult probation and parole. Been trying to get me for years, so I just went into that and thought, well, I'll just age out. And when I finish my master's, go into forensic psychology, helping to establish the prison system and how they house people and how they assess intake, new offenders, and work and do that until I retire because I enjoy that. And so I was in the seventh year as an officer when I started having a lot of issues with my knees and hips again, and had to go through repeat surgeries. Had to do some time on FMLA where I had to work part time, even though I carried a whole caseload and I was only working a third of what other officers did. Um, and as soon as I got back to full time, I was walking with a limp by then. And because I supervised the aggressive offenders, TDOC was like, "Your liability, you need to go." Even though I'd never had an altercation, and they called me in to de escalate everything. I later found out that one of the managers that was directly above me was trying to get into a district director position, and he knew it was coming open in the next year. And he also knew that I was a favorite, and I'd gotten a lot of awards and a lot of commendations from both the parole board and the ICAO system, which is the Inter Compact, where offenders are monitored across state lines in other states for the other state. And I had also taught cognitive behavioral therapy. So he was afraid that I was going to put in for that district director position and get a desk job since my body was crapping out. I did not want that position. I wanted to be an officer with the people until I went into the prison to do what I wanted to do. Did he ask me that? No. He just got really, really aggressively neurotic and thought I was going to take his job. So he started pushing, saying that I was a liability, pushing, saying that bad things were going to happen if I was left in the field because I had all the violent males and the murderers. And he started pushing me. And he called one morning and told me I needed to be in a county that was an hour and a half away, but I only had 25 minutes to get there. And I said, it's physically not possible. I can't do that. He wanted me to prosecute a parole revocation at a jail. The other officer couldn't make it. And I said, well, where are you? Well, I'm at the office across from the jail. Well, why don't you just take the file and go do it? You've done this for 21 years. You can do that. I can't get there. Well, you're being insubordinate by saying no. I'm not saying no. I'm saying it's a physical impossibility. I can't do it. Y'all are an hour ahead of me, and I can't do it. you know. And he just started cussing me. So I just got my tablet and clicked record and just let him cuss me. I thought, okay. And I called the district director and I was like, we need to talk. And I played what had happened, and she was like, oh, she's like, you can't go into the office, you know. She's like, you're home until we have mediation. She said, you know, she said, we got to fix this. That cannot occur. And she said, I got paperwork. I had to file a grievance. I was told to stay home for 10 days, and in 10 days they would establish a mediation, and then I could get back to work. And I said, well, hurry, because my clients need me at work. In 3 days they stopped, because I had to call every day to see if they'd set the date, time, and place for the mediation. In 3 days they stopped returning my phone calls. I hired an attorney. After 3 days of him, they stopped returning his phone calls. The seventh day, we could not even get anyone to send us to voicemail. No one would respond by email either. Um, the eighth day, they sent an officer from 3 hours away to my home to make sure I was okay, which was illegal as heck. And it was somebody I knew, so I was like, I'm waiting for a mediation. And I showed her all this, and she's like, oh my God, they told me none of that. She said, something's bad wrong. I said, I know, I feel it too. And it takes 3 days for mail to get from the hub office to my house because they've mailed stuff for a decade. I know how long it takes. And so she was there on the eighth day, and on the ninth day, which means they had to have mailed it 2 days prior, I got a notice that they were terminating my employment because I'd abandoned my post. So when I went and called to check my grievance and enter my grievance number, it was non existent, and they had shredded my grievance. And so my attorney said, you have a federal lawsuit. And he said that in order to have a federal lawsuit, we have to sue everybody that breached protocol. And he said the one that did the worst was the one that came to your home. I said, but she was just following directives and she didn't know not to. And he said, doesn't matter. We have to sue everyone independently and jointly. And he said, we have to go after her because she breached the sanctity of your home. And if we don't go after her, they're going to wonder why you didn't, and your case will fall apart. Well, she had just had a baby about 8 months prior, and it was born without the separation in the diaphragm to the gut. And so all the organs were jumbled, and he had already had like 12 surgeries. He was just a baby. And were broke and in such medical debt and had lost their home, and her husband had lost his job. And they were just in a tizzy. And she was the sweetest person I ever met. Like, she was the kindest soul I ever met. And they were already like $300,000 in debt. I mean, they were so far in debt from this medical stuff. And I knew all this because we were friends. And she would come to work and cry and tell us all this stuff, and we just felt horrible for her. And basically, the legal team that I have was like, if you don't prosecute her, they'll throw your case out because you're picking and choosing who you're mad at. And I was like, I can't do that to her. She's gone through enough. These other people are just buttholes. They deserve to be punished, but she was pulled into this to emotionally affect me. And even she was like, do it, Elizabeth. She's like, I'll survive somehow, do it. They shouldn't have done this to you, do it. The lawyer said, well, you need to make a decision by Monday. And he called me Monday, and he said, what are we going to do? And I said, can't do it. He said, you're going to let a $2 million lawsuit go? And I said, yeah. He said, why? And I said, I'd rather sleep good for the rest of my time on this earth, I said, than have a few extra nickels in my pocket. I said, I can't do that to somebody. I said, they set it up to harm her the worst so that would affect me the most. And I said, but I can't. I said, I know this is what they wanted, but I said, I can't do this to her. And I couldn't. And the lawyer was just like, it's like, I've never met anybody like you. And, but it just wasn't right. It wasn't right. So I couldn't do it. And David was with me the whole way. He was like, it's not right what they're doing. And he said, I'd rather not cause anyone else the pain we've had to go through because of these buttholes. So I left, and it was the worst break from any work I've ever experienced. And what made it more sad is that a bunch of my parolees did not understand what had happened. I could have no contact. They didn't know I wasn't there. They thought I had moved somewhere else or moved up. So, and nobody would answer their questions. So they, like, one day, a bunch of them got together and made like a little picket line in front of the Justice Center and were like demanding they bring me back. And I felt so bad because those were people that relied upon me that, finally had accepted guidance from somebody, and now I was not there to guide them anymore. And then they were confused why I wasn't there, but we couldn't tell, nobody could tell them anything. And I felt really bad about that. Um, so my name is like spoken in hushed and reverence tones in these areas by these groups of people. And I still get hugs every time I show up in one of the counties I supervised in. If I show up to an event, a community event or something, I'm hugged all evening. I can't go to my local Walmart for milk without getting a hug in the milk aisle. So I know that the people that count, know me for who I am, and know my motivation in life. And had that stupid little man just asked me if I wanted his job, I would have said, heck no, sunshine, you can have it. I don't want to be behind a desk, 2 more hours on down the road. It's no. I want to be in the field working with people. And he would not have had to have envisioned this huge she's a threat in his brain and caused all the crap he caused. But, human behavior. So, yeah. Had it not been for this disorder and creating that dynamic with that stupid idiot, I probably would still be working in the corrections field or in the prison system because that's kind of where my heart was. But if they ever open up online therapy in this state to where I can work under a licensed professional, because when I went for my master's, I did not go for licensure. I casted the widest net possible. So in order to cancel, I just have to work under a licensed professional in any physical office. But online, they don't have it set up like that. Everyone must be individually licensed. So if they ever augment it to where online you can work under a licensed professional and they just sign up on my treatment plans and stuff, then I will probably start doing counseling at least part time. I mean, I won't be able to do a whole lot with my health, but I will try to do something. Because I went to school for 6 years to do this. I want to be able to help people. So that's I have my fingers crossed and my toes that that happens sometime in the future because I'd really like to get back to what I'm good at. Oh, everybody has a crossed bear. Mine just smacked me upside the head out of the wild blue yonder. But you just got to deal with it and go on. You find bad people everywhere. And sadly, this little man has ruined a lot of great careers and has tarnished, he's really tarnished the offices that he's worked in. And the bad thing is once you get to a certain level of seniority within the state, it's almost impossible for them to terminate you. And he sadly is that old. So, but I was raised. Here's something y'all probably don't know. I was raised just up the road from Herman Davis, who was one of the last great wardens of Brushy Mountain before Brushy Mountain closed down. He's like one of the most famous wardens of Brushy Mountain because he had all the runaways and stuff when he was there, and he ran a tight ship. And I knew his name was Herman Davis. I just grew up calling him Warden. I thought that was his name until I was old enough to understand his job. He had walking horses, and he would bring trailer loads for my dad to shoot. And when Warden came to visit, we would just have a barbecue, visit. He was like a bonus grandpa to me. So I knew this very kind side to this man. And it was always funny when we would go like to his house to shoe a horse. I would be like, Dad, why does he have armed guards? Because that was just a little thing. I didn't realize that, he had had death threats and they had had to give him security. And so it was just, I had a weird upbringing, but he was a very big influence in my life. And when I became older and could understand what he was dealing with and glean some information and wisdom from him, I did. And I went to see him up until just a few months before he passed away. He was on oxygen last time I sat with him. I would go visit him, and his stupid little dog, his little Chihuahua dog Zero, bit me every time I was there. The dog was an attacker. But I would stop and check in on him. If I was ever in the area for training or something, I would just stop and check in on him. And his color wasn't good the last time I saw him, and he was on oxygen. But we sat and chit chatted for a while anyway. He was a very kind hearted man. You wouldn't think that from the job and the things that the newspapers wrote about him, but he was a very kind hearted man. And I miss him. He was fun. I don't miss that dog. But I was raised in that vibe, and I think that's what got me into psychology and understanding, especially the criminal mindset. Life coaching is one of those things to where it's, if you had to compare life coaching in a form of something compared to what I do, I would be vinegar and life coaching would be carrot syrup. Is that different? It's that different from how I attack things. And I don't think I would do well in that regard, because life coaching is all about telling people who have the money to tell you what to tell them, telling them what they want to know in a way that they can still do work on themselves, but you always have to heed their money and their requests, so you never really get to work on anything of substance. So life coaching for me is like not something I want to get into, because it's like, it's for a demographic that is a little bit more pampered than I care to work with. Does that make sense? Yeah, I always gets just slapped right where I need to be and when I'm necessary. So I'm sure I'll pop up where I'm supposed to be in the future. Um, I'm hoping there is an outlet for me to continue using my skills to help others. Even if there's not a financial component to it, if I can just feel useful, that would be a good thing. Yeah, yeah, basically. And I've done individual counseling, without a criminogenic background behind it too. So I enjoy both. He was like the bonus family member. So he would like bring like a huge slant load trailer with like, I mean, literally a dozen horses. So he'd be there all day. Dad would be busy all day, and we would just cook and fish at the pond and hang out and chit chat. It was like a big party when he came to visit, because we all enjoyed his energy and his stories and his laughter. Yeah, yeah, that was the kind of person I was up against. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And what's so funny is he was like 4'9", and it had polio for a child. So I have some sympathy for him. I mean, he went through something horrible, but you just could not be nice to him. Like he had a party on his property for all the officers that were underneath him, and he purposefully, like, because we had not always had the best relationship, because he picked on me horribly. Now I know why. But he made a point to invite me several times, be like, everybody wants you there. Everybody wants you there. Please say you'll come. Everybody wants you there. So my husband and my kids and me get in the vehicle to drive 2 hours almost to go to his home for this barbecue party for employees and their families. And I thought maybe this is him reaching and being, this is our truce moment. And I got there, and with my husband and my children, I've always been a big burly woman, but I'm not like ginormous, but I'm a big burly woman, and I've gained more weight since these surgeries and stuff. But still, the moment I got there, he stopped me in the backyard coming up to his house, shook my hand, and I thought he was genuinely happy to see me. He shook my hand and kind of nodded to my family and said, "Well, I'm glad you're here. Everybody was expecting you. Now maybe they'll shut up and enjoy themselves. Oh, by the way, if you need to go in the house, go around to the front steps. I don't want you to break my back ones." And my husband basically just grabbed me and said, "No, we're leaving." And we left. And it's just like, I mean, and he probably planned all of that and thought it was like the best thing ever. And it was just like, I have no time for you. And once I decided that I had no time for him and did not respect him anymore, is when he really got aggressive and wanted me out. And I think in his mind is because he thought I wanted to get him out of a job. I didn't. I didn't care. I didn't want his job, but he thought I did. So I was a threat. Most of the programs are federally funded, which still brings up the licensure issue. So it's easier for me to work under an umbrella of someone licensed than to attempt to find a specific regard where my master's is accepted in place of, because the funding changes so much that I could literally have a 6 month contract and lose it because it would the regulations would change on the next contract. So it's just easier for me to work under the umbrella of a licensed individual. Which I do have a very good friend that's about done with her licensure, which may open up an opportunity for that. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope I help some people. Critical thinking needs to come back in this nation. Well, see, I'm just like 5'2". I'm little and big shouldered and round, burly, but I wasn't like going to break his porch steps. I think he thought that he was going to get me to react and he was going to be able to say I'd been aggressive or something, and I was like, I'm not gonna take away the livelihood that feeds my children because of you. Stupid man. Yeah, I have a good husband. Well, if I work under a licensed counselor, I act just as another licensed counselor. They just have to go through and sign off on my treatment plans. That's literally all they do is go through, and after I do my assessment and make my treatment plan, they sign off on my treatment plan. And I think once a quarter they need to go through my files and make sure that everything's kept, up to par. So I act just as a licensed counselor, as my own little entity. Um, so everywhere I've worked, I have basically worked. I mean, I've been a counselor. I've just been assigned under another licensed counselor that has had to check off on my treatment plans. But I'm a counselor. And I like the way that it's set up like that because I don't mind oversight. I like having somebody I can go to, but I also like the communal feeling in the office to where we all help each other. So I don't mind having someone that needs to check my work. It doesn't bother me at all. Um, but I also did group. Like I can still teach cognitive behavioral therapy in a lot of different specialized programs. I have a lot of certificates and stuff that allow me to teach these things, and I need to spend like 8 hours a year staying up on them. But the travel is the hard part for me, and so if I can't get out of the stupid rural area with my limited ability to physically get up and go, I never know when my legs are going to crap out. So if I get 4 hours away from home and I can't drive myself back, I'm stuck. And it's a horrible. There's no way to strategically plan it out to where this will not render me stranded somewhere or worse. So I'm literally waiting for some option online, and if they will at least tweak that, and I think they will, with as many people are going online, I think they will eventually change that to where you can do the same thing as with the physical businesses. You can just work under somebody. I think they will change that for just the financial boom that I know that they're wanting. So as soon as they augment that, buddy, I'm in there. I'm gonna work a little bit again because it's it, I enjoy work and I enjoy working with people and I enjoy reaching out to people that otherwise um, feel that they have no outlet. I like to show up and remind people that people care and that there are ways to get through even the hardest of times. And sometimes it just takes somebody that you can brain vomit on, you know. So that's kind of what I'm here for. Yeah, you understand. Well, it's typical for most professions, but in counseling, if I wanted to work completely on my own, or in an office like online, I would have to go ahead and get that licensure. Which at my age, I'm sorry, I'm done. There's no way I could travel to get it all done right now. Um, but I was really going for forensic into the prisons. So I wasn't going to need that license, and now I'm like, It's like I should have seen all this coming, hindsight 2020. But it's kind of laughable now. I find the humor in it. But at least I do still have my master's, and I can kind of, if things change, I will have options. But it's going to have to be an online option, and it's going to have to be one that I can dictate how much I can work, so I can make sure I keep a very small caseload so that my health does not become unbalanced. So that's the big thing. It can't be somebody that just wants to milk me like a cow every morning and take all I have. I've got to be able to dictate my hours and make sure that my caseload remains small and doable for my medical stuff. I have. It's down there somewhere. There's a lot of stuff down there. I even tell you all about my horrible first divorce and what I learned um, about myself through my first husband having a horrible affair and leaving me high and dry with two toddlers. And if y'all don't know, David, my husband now, married me. My kids were 2.5, well, about 2 and 3, 2.5, 3.5, and he adopted them immediately. David adopted and raised my children. My children are now 23 and 24. They bear his last name. The birth certificates were revamped to say he's the father. Their biological father begged for the state to let him loose. He was a co-petitioner in the adoption. He begged for it to happen. And David didn't bat an eye. He took on my children. So I have a video about that down there too. There's a lot to learn in that because I was so naive and stupid. Oh, I was so naive and stupid. I think you should. That's probably a good idea. I appreciate you visiting. I'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully earlier. I hope this headache, I sleep the rest of it on off tonight, and tomorrow I feel good. I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to him because I thought everybody in there was a character with a role to play. And honestly, what are you going to say to somebody that's got millions and billions and you just are, I mean, it takes a special type of counselor to counsel someone that has that type of money and to do it legitimately and honestly, because lots of times you end up fueling whatever they're going into and just making them feel good about whatever they're facing, not actually addressing issues and problems, but just getting them through it and feeling good about themselves so that you can keep raking in the money. um, but to have a full perspective on them, I probably have to watch it again. I just thought that whole thing was the funniest. Just the It was just the funniest thing I ever saw. I mean, where else can you watch a grown woman take a hit off a napkin in a witness box? I mean, it would just boggled my mind. Well, the sad thing is I'm so rural. There's not a lot of options physically around here unless you get into the ones that have federal funding or are backed by some kind of special funding. So they require the max regulations on everything. So being rural is not helping me look like that's being rural is not helping me look for a job option. And they made me disabled because it's a terminal diagnosis and I spend so much time in the hospital, and because they don't know what organ or area it's going to spread to next to my body. So um, that's why they disabled me. Plus the fine motor skills and stuff were leaving. And I do have days to where I'm like, open the milk, David. I can't use my hands at all. There are days I get up and my legs don't function, and David has to help me get out of bed. And then maybe midday, mid morning, or early afternoon they start working again. It's just kind of I get up every morning wondering how I will function at what level I will function today. And that's why I'm on later, is because it takes me longer to get my body going and to get it functioning. I normally, and this is just truthful, it sounds horrible, but it's truthful. I normally wake up, the first thing I say every day is ow. And I might whine and even cry and work with whatever is frozen or caught or not wanting to jive and get my body limbered up and get out of bed and get going. But the mornings are not good times for me. So I'm not an early bird at all. It takes me hours to get my body functioning. And then I hate to go to bed because I'm like, I did all this work to be able to move, and I'm gonna go to bed and it's not gonna move in the morning. It's a struggle, and thank God I have a sense of humor. Oh, you keep planting because you may figure out and hear about something that I don't, being in this rural area. So you bring all of those to me. I'll sift through them. I appreciate it. You have a good night too. Thank you for stopping by. Come back anytime. Well, please leave feedback if you find something you really enjoy. I'm new to this, and the only reason I kept doing YouTube was Ryan prompted me to. Y'all have a good night too. I'm fixing to go to bed. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm a little pale today, but I feel better. I just need to sleep the rest of this headache right here off. And I think most of it was weather and allergies because I'm really congested right through here right now. Today's been one of those days. It's been like pressure. It is. Rural is very important. There are definite positives from being up here, and then there are negatives. And with my education, the travel to any work that could justify hiring me is a huge negative. But I still write for like the county paper. I do it all volunteer based. I still write for the county paper, so when they struggle with stuff, they'll call me, and I still do stuff. I just, had big plans, but I can still fulfill plans. I just got to change them. I just got to tweak them, and I can do that. I'm going to read up on this, but I literally gone back. I've gotten away from petroleum based anything medicinally, gone back to tinctures and even homemade stuff. So I think that's what has made for me a difference in my health the last little bit. My doctors are they're okay with it. Like they're like, you're doing great. Whatever you're doing is working. Just keep us in the loop. So, oh, I will. Me and hubby will try to do every Sunday and keep up this. This is his tanning business, and I'm proud of him because it's an old skill. My family were old souls. Even my son is he's an arborist, climbs trees and takes them apart, and is a chainsaw artist. He's an old soul, and he's just starting out in his little world. And when we're expecting baby any day, and let me tell you what, he's got baby on the brain because he can literally think of nothing else to do. Like he can't function. He's just waiting on that child to be born. It's so cute. Um, but even at 24, he has got people that are 50 and 60 going, wow, we don't know anybody can do this. So it's nice to see him um, spoken about. He's got a commission possibly from one of my mods, and he is terrified because she wants it to sit on the other side of her grave when she passes, but she's like, oh, that's big. That's stress. That's important. But then he's like, I think I can do it. I think I can do this. And it's cute to watch him question himself, but no, also want to do such a good job because he respects, what they're going to do with what he carves. So it's, I have good kids. My daughter's amazing. She's so freaking smart. She's almost in Florida. She's down south. She's fixing to be married. I sent her a package of aunt stuff the other day so that when she came to visit baby, she would have all her aunt attire and be ready to roll. Books in the background. I'm blind. I have another eye appointment September 1st to revamp my glasses yet again. So I'm not sure I could read the books in the background. But if you can discern what they say and send them to me in an email, um, then I will gladly research them. But I'm blind right now. So blind. I'm so blind. But I would absolutely do it in a heartbeat, John, if you could just get me the names. Because I'm blind. Like almost legally. Well, thing I'm excited. I will definitely look into it. I'm just allergic to a lot of stuff, so I have to be super careful. So, okay, I'm going to call it a night. I think we covered quite a bit. I made it farther than I thought I would. I'm going to have to lay back down. My head's starting to throb again. But um, these are just the things I picked up on, my curiosities, my concerns, my brain vomits when I was watching the press conference. And I just didn't want to do anything last night out of respect for what was going on. They were carting her home last night. And I just didn't feel like I needed to be speaking about her while they were taking her back home. So, energy is very important to me. I just didn't think that. I just felt like last night was a very somber night. So I'm going to be following this. I'm going to be watching it. But after we've discussed this stuff, go back and look at that party picture where all the kids are standing around. And now look at it and say they look like, do they look like they're being addressed by an authority figure that is telling them when they may go? Because it looks different now. Since we know what occurred, it looks different now, to me at least. And just kind of go back down and look at all the evidence again with a different mindset and see if you pick up on something differently. Thank you so much. I'll take all the blessings and prayers I can get. It helps a lot. And I'm not really a true crime person. I really don't like the true crime community. They kind of wig me out sometimes and they get super aggressive and almost borderline violent. And this one psychologically grabbed me because of the behavior I saw exhibited by teenagers. It bothered me. I don't do a whole lot of true crime, but when something like this does grab me, I will address it. So I don't know when we'll hit the next true crime bubble. It just depends on what hits me. But I'll definitely do videos from time to time about stuff like this. And some days I just throw out something completely stupid and funny because we all need to laugh. But Oscar's going to drink his water so everybody can hear. He knows it's potty time. But I try to just kind of take you along for a ride in my life every day. So you're more than welcome to check in and stay with the family. I appreciate everybody that's coming through. And I'm not monetized. I will never be monetized. This is just, I like my little family. And I want it to feel like you have gone to visit your friend and pulled up a chair at the table and are having a discussion. So that's who I am. You can blame Ryan Etchurch for me being here. He is the one that got me to do my first video and sucked me in to keep doing it. So you blame Ryan. But I do hope that I'm here to stay at least until I get that third strike because, you know, we all know that's going to happen. If it does, I'll just create another channel with the Hillbilly Heart and some addition. But I also have a Brighteon channel and a Rumble channel. I have Brighteon. I have videos on Brighteon under Hillbilly Heart. And I have a Rumble channel earmarked. I just haven't uploaded anything. But should YouTube ditch me, like I know they want to, should they ditch me, then you can find me on Brighteon and Rumble. And you can always email me at all these places and contact me. Send a message to Dave through his store, or even just go to Hillbilly Furs on Facebook and say, hey, Dave, what happened to Liz? And he'll let you know where you can find me. So I will always be able to be found. And it will normally always be with the Hillbilly Heart name. So I appreciate you spending time with me, and I'm going to let the dog go out and get ready for bed. And hopefully my husband will be home from work. He's working late tonight. So I'm going to try to rest, and tomorrow's going to be a better day. I'm going to will it to happen. And maybe we'll talk about something more fun tomorrow. So, appreciations. If you want to know more about me, go dig through my videos. You can tell the ones that have the big talks, they got a lot of time with them. The craft lives, we do talk about fun stuff, but if I have a really important topic, I do a video and upload it so you can kind of dig through. I do have some hysterically funny videos. I think I'm very blessed with humor that you may enjoy if you're having a sad day. And one of my best ones is Shit Hillbilly Mama Say. That's a good one. And then one of them is like, well, that took a strange turn. That's a great one as well. So go pilfer and find something that's going to make you laugh before you go to bed, because we've all been stuck in this sadness for a while now. We need to laugh. Let's laugh tomorrow. We're going to laugh tomorrow. I'm going to bed. Bye, guys.